Ads and brochures selling dream vacations want you to see paradise about 1,000 miles south of Florida. On the surface, the U.S. Virgin Islands appear postcard perfect, but dive a little deeper and you'll find a much different picture. Video of broken down public schools doesn't help fill hotels or pack beaches. The fact is, life for locals is far from paradise. More than 30% of families with young children live below the poverty line. Overall in this territory of 100,000 people or so, the poverty rate is 23% compared to 15% on the mainland. And the per capita annual income is abysmal, about 35% lower than that of Mississippi, the poorest state in America. But there is hope. The beaches here on the island of St. John are simply breathtaking. But just steps away from Hawks Nest Beach, something else breathtaking is happening. Freshwater Church is talking about Jesus, living out the gospel, and sharing an eternal message here with the locals that they so desperately need. Each Sunday you will find them here, right next to the beach, praising Jesus. Pastor Terry Lansdale and his wife Marta are missionaries in St. John. God called them during their very first visit to the island.
We walked off the people ferry and walked onto the island, and God immediately spoke in a quiet voice and just simply said, "Terry, this is a place for you."
What they found was far from paradise.
Our apartment became a triage for spiritually broken people. The first 6 months, I kept inviting people over, and our little place was full of people. There would be 25, 30 people. People were desperate for answers.
Including one man fighting an addiction that Pastor Terry will never forget.
This man knocked on the door and said, "Terry, if you don't have something positive that you can share with me, this is my last moment." Yeah. And praise God, we intervened. God intervened, and so I lived life with him for the next week. Father, I thank you for each one that you've drawn here this morning.
I mean, unfortunately, brokenness, it doesn't matter if you're in paradise.
Amber Pinnegas was living in New York City 3 years ago, but God kept leading her to St. John. Now, as part of Freshwater Church, she sees the brokenness of young people all around her.
There's a lot of people down here who don't really know how to deal with their brokenness. There is a lot of alcohol, there's a lot of drugs on the island, and you know, that goes hand in hand with people who come down here seasonally. You know, people around my age who are coming down here and, you know, just coming for a little while and, you know, enjoying their life, but they're still carrying that brokenness.
We've just seen lives changed, we've seen lives saved, we've seen people that are hurt just reach out to us, and they not know us that well at all, but because God was in it and we were definitely prayed up and definitely moving forward, we're blessed by being obedient.
That obedience includes sharing the good news with poor children attending public school.
We can go down during their lunch recess and they allow us to play with the children. They also allow us to share the gospel. They allow us to share Jesus stories with those little children.
And that's why Freshwater Church makes ministering to people and fostering community a top priority.
Keep the central things central. Don't worry about the things that really have nothing to do with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Get your arms around people and love people. Let them understand the value they have in God, and you will be shocked how people will begin to respond and come out.
It's been working. When the church started 3 years ago, they had sparse attendance. Now, dozens and dozens keep flowing in.
Oh, come on in.
This church made a difference in my life. It turned my life around.
Katie Connell has been on the island of St. John 23 years now.
And I told God, if you let me live there, I'll dig ditches, I'll clean toilets, I don't care what I have to do. And sure enough, I got here and I did clean toilets.
Toilet cleaning turned into running 4 companies. Eventually, life got too busy and Katie started focusing on herself. Then, she learned a valuable lesson.
Religion is kind of kept in the dark here. They might go to church on Sunday, but they don't talk about it during the week. And this was a church that was teaching me, not only do you talk about it during the week, you talk about it with your employees, you run your company that way, you do everything according to God's will.
For Pastor Terry and Marta, that's what it's all about, doing God's will even if it means being far away from their grown-up kids.
I miss them. I like seeing them. I like hugging them, and I miss it. But at the same time, God has just blessed us so much, and we'll leave a legacy for our children to carry on that is, it's all good.
It sure is, especially when you have Jesus and are spreading His word to the underprivileged. The church is indeed providing much needed fresh water.
The idea of fresh water became very real because everybody needs a drink of fresh water, and we thought that that's what we were bringing to people was the word of Jesus, and Jesus said it Himself, if you just give someone a cup of water in my name. Every day, gonna let my little light shine.
David Brody, CBN News, on the island of St. John.
Yeah.